We started early on, 26th of January actually, 2 years ago. I was speaking to a friend in New Zealand who was concerned about the virus because they have more than 30,000 visitors to New Zealand every summer, and China obviously was in a potentially in a very poor situation, so they were very concerned about it. And I thought, hand on heart, oh gosh, they're really close, that's a real worry. And then I thought, hang on a minute, we're already close because it's just one plane ride away. So then I talked to my daughter, who's a junior doctor, and talking about scrubs, and she'd said that she couldn't get scrubs to fit her because she's extra small. I just measured her and all her 6 bridesmaids for wedding dress and bridesmaids dresses, and I realised that they were all extra small, and that there was an issue with scrubs anyway because although they're unisex, they're actually made for men. And when you look at the preponderance of people in hospitals doing the work, 80% of them are female. So all these females are wearing men's scrubs. So that was the first thing. So I started looking at the pattern thinking she's going to need scrubs, and because she was on the respiratory ward, and she thought that the hospital was a wealthy trust and would be able to get scrubs, but I knew more than that, having been in the garment industry for quite a long time. I knew they were predominantly made in China and in North Africa, and we just had this amazing Brexit situation. So I knew that there was going to be issues with transport. I knew there would be issues with the global economy because everybody was going to need them, because actually everybody was really close. And I knew that they would step up the number of people in infection control. People would be wearing scrubs and not taking their clothes home. So I thought, this is going to be a run, don't walk. So I wrote to the government, well actually via a friend we wrote to the government, and didn't hear anything, and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to get on with it. So I did. I invested £1,500 of my own money, and because I'm in the fortunate position of being chair of parish action within our parish, I had keys to the church hall, and I asked permission to use it, and I laid up the length of the church hall, which is 10 metres, and did my patterns. I spent a month researching the patterns. Because of the female bias in clothing, I thought actually we need to find out what people really need. Yep. And also aware that they'd be wearing a lot of plastic, which would be too hot. So I thought we need a lighter weight fabric, and it was also subject to what I could get. Polycotton 65-35 because it needs to be able to be washed at a certain temperature, and they were all finding things out along the way, so trying to be flexible with it. I had no people to sew for me at the time, but I had done some research on Queen Mary's Needlework Guild back in the wars, and she had looked at, because they didn't have enough equipment for the troops, and she had looked at who her group were, and she had all of these needlework guilds all over the country. So she got all the patterns together, and then she sent them out to these satellite places, and they made them up. And I thought, that's what I need to do. Who are going to be my team? Who can sew? And I thought it'll be people of a certain age who had a sewing machine, knew how to use it, but probably wouldn't know what pattern to use, wouldn't probably have access to fabric, would be worried about sourcing thread. Also, I was really mindful of the people within our community who would be on their own, shielding, isolating, worried. All the news coming in is always bad. You know, no one likes good news, so that doesn't turn the television on. And I thought, from my experience of the older folk in our parish, I thought they live on their personality, and if that gets dented, they're going to go for a tumble, and I wanted to catch them before they fell. Well, some people say it's been a real lifeline to them, helping people to help, but not just the elderly people. So I've got an amazing gentleman in my parish, Commander Shaw, who identified a lot of the youngsters were having challenges, not wanting to get up in the morning, no purpose to their day, not on their gap year, other people who couldn't do their Duke of Edinburgh community service for their gold award, all these people that couldn't do anything. And Commander Shaw said to me, could you take them under your wing and will you work them hard? So I did. And we've taught people to sew, all sorts of, it's just fantastic. I mean, this is lovely that I've been nominated for this, but it isn't about me, you know, it's everybody. None of us are any of it without all of us. So if I don't have people to cut mask elastic, and I don't have people to sort the kits, and I don't have people to staple the size labels onto the labels, if I don't have people donating thread, if I don't have my retired taxi driver delivering kits to people in their homes, you know, none of it happens. So I'm really just a spokesperson for really everybody who's done so much. So I've got one lady who makes really beautiful scrubs. She doesn't have a fancy machine. and she can't overlock them or anything, but she makes them beautifully, and she always embroiders an H on the back neck facing so that we know that Helen has made these scrubs. So yes, I think people take real pride in things. And we also send the kits all over the country, so they get everything that they need. But I've got a lovely story. One of the ladies who works with us is, her mother lives in Dorset, and we noticed when we were at the church that there was a fishman that came up from Dorset, and we thought, oh, we wonder. So what we do is we send kits down in the cab. He promises they don't go in the bag, double bagged, in the cab of the fish truck. It drives down. He meets this lady's mum, Maureen, in a lay-by by a garden centre and gives her the kits, and then she heads off home and she splits them out amongst her community, and then they sew them all and bring them back, and then the next Friday he drives them back up to us on Saturday. All over the place. I mean, so many people, the volunteer riders who literally on their Harleys or whatever take stuff all over the country. It's just been fantastic and joyous. One of the things that I did at the very beginning was I did an awful lot of work on the pattern. So there are reversible scrubs out there. Why? You know, so when they get dirty and the Queen comes to visit, you turn them to the inside. So they just need a lot of work. So I consulted with graduates from Imperial College what they really, really needed, what was essential to the design, and we came up with a whole lot of modifications, and then I looked at who would be sewing them. So lots of people might be small, might have a small place to work, wouldn't want to manage a long seam in the trousers. People pivoting for a V-neck, that's quite hard, so could we make a yoke? So I looked at all of that, and also people row and people cycle, so they've got muscles, you know, none of this kind of, you've got to be able to move, you know, delivering a baby you need to be able to bend down, and so I looked at all of that, and then we designed the scrub pattern from that. Well, some people, so volunteers and also the people who receive them, I think there's a real joy in giving, and I think that really gives people purpose and a rhythm to their life which had gone. So they couldn't go line dancing or doing whatever they were doing before. They now needed to be at home, and not, you know, once you've tidied your house out, I have to say I haven't managed to do that. Mine looks chaotic. What do you do? And I think that also a lot of people of a certain age are not necessarily that conversant with digital platforms, so Zoom calls will feel difficult for them, and it just gives people a purpose. And we deliberately we deliver kits, but we also, people can come into the hub but on staged appointments. So we're in a position to give a bit more time to someone that we know is having difficulty, really missing their grandchildren. And also there's enough space that I deliberately allow people to come into the hub and work. So there was one lady who said to me on the doorstep, she's quite a petite lady, and she's almost completely covered by her face mask, and I could just see the tears pricking her eyes, and she said, you know, I lost my husband and I didn't realise how much I relied on him, and then I can't be in touch with my boys and I didn't realise how much I relied on them. And she said, could I come in? And I said, yeah, of course. So we space people out. I've got people who are going through chemo, and it's just a chance where they can come in. I know I'm clean because I'm not anywhere, so chances are they'll be pretty safe. I would really like a sustainable means of making scrubs in this country. There are a lot of things that could be very easily done to make a big difference. So, for example, at the moment within the UK, people at different hospitals wear different colours of scrubs, same junior doctors, and when they rotate, they haven't got the right colours, as I mentioned earlier. So standardise the colours. Find out what people want to wear. You know, it seems like it's the smallest thing to be able to provide people something to wear. A lot of the nurses would like to wear scrubs. People don't want to wear dresses and tights and shoes now. We've all moved on, and NHS England and the supply chain people, they need to move on too. We need to look at what's really wanted, what's really useful, and give it to people. It seems very straightforward. I mean, even things like the vaccination centres, there's funding for the vaccination centres and the government takes credit for them. I think it's a lot to do with the GPs and their hard work, but in any event, there's no budget line for scrubs. So people who are manning the vaccination centres, there's a core team of employees, if you will, but the rest is volunteers. So they're expecting the volunteers to provide their own clothing. Well, they can't buy scrubs, and there's no money for it. So there's some simple things to do.